Hey, it's Dr. Jack Wolfson, the paleocardiologist, and I'm so honored today to have on the Healthy Heart Show, Dr. Josh Axe. And if you don't know Dr. Josh Axe, I don't know where you've been hiding out, because Dr. Axe is all over the place, and for good reason, because he is changing the face of healthcare, not sick care, the area where I came from, but healthcare and wellness. And Dr. Axe is at the forefront. Dr. Axe is a doctor of naturopathic medicine. He is a doctor of chiropractic, just like my beautiful bride, Dr. Heather. And he is a nutritionist as well. So welcome, Josh, to the show. Pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dr. Jack. Excited to be here.
You got it, my friend. So you have so many things going on in your world. You've got the website, which is just a wealth of information. It's like whenever I want to learn about something, or I'm looking at about some kind of food or some kind of nutrient, I get into Google and there's my buddy, draxe.com, to give me that information. So kudos to you for really getting that info out there. And of course, your line of supplements and your knowledge of essential oils, and the stuff that you're doing as far as the creator of the bone broth protein, and a lot in the keto space. So tell me what's the latest, what's been going on?
Yeah, so I've just been busy lately, traveling a lot, and Chelsea and I are doing well here in Nashville and hanging with our two dogs, Oakley and Flash. But I've been doing a lot in sort of the vitamin supplement world, working on a lot of new products, a lot of keto stuff. I think that there's a right and a wrong way to do keto, as you and I both know. So, I'm teaching I'm actually authoring a book on the keto diet. And, I think the keto diet's one diet. I don't think it's for everybody. I think it's for a lot of people who are looking to really transform the health of their brain. Somebody who's looking, there's clinical studies on it for PCOS or, fighting cancer. So there are a lot of different, and weight loss, fast weight loss, diabetes, so there's some really good evidence on the keto diet. It's for some people, it's not for everybody, but I wanted to get a book out there because I know this keto trend is continuing to grow, but there's a right and wrong way to do keto. And I had a patient a few years ago who came into my clinic and he's like, Dr. Axe, I'm on the keto diet. This is probably about 5 years ago. And I was like, really? So, hey, what are you eating? And he said, well, for breakfast, I wake up and I fry up some butter or some bacon and butter and eggs. And for lunch, I actually make myself a burger, like a bacon burger. And then for dinner, I do like butter, bacon, and eggs. He said, I know it's not very much variety. I'm like, that's not the way to do that, And so, it's really important that, hey, if you're doing some turkey bacon, that's great. If you're doing some grass-fed beef burger, that's fantastic. And some ghee and butter, pastured butter's fine, but you need other things too, And so I think when you're on a keto diet, it's really important that you are getting lots of alkaline vegetables, lots of minerals that are very alkaline in nature, and really balancing your body out. So that's the thing is, hey, there's a right way to do keto where you can lose weight really fast. You can transform your health. But you got to just be doing real food, healthy fats, avocados, coconut, olives, tahini, and nuts and flax seeds and wild caught fish. And that's the way it's supposed to be done. And, anyway, so that's something I've been spending some time on recently.
Well, when I was a cardiology fellow back in 2000, I was at a meeting at the American College of Cardiology, and I saw this debate for about 45 minutes between the late Robert Atkins, obviously of low carb fame, and then Ian Ornish of low fat fame. And I walked out of there and said, wow, what this guy Atkins is saying about going low carb makes total sense. But I think, as you alluded to, there was not this differentiation between healthy fats, and what he was pushing was a lot of ketosis, back then.
Yeah.
But he had no say as far as, hey, is it free range grass fed, or is it quality fats like avocados? He was all about shoving in, like soybean oil, base. And I know you and I are obviously both very big on organic, and I know that Ancient Nutrition, your company, you guys have so many different organic products available, and that's really where I try and push things, as I know you do as well. But it's that quality of the fat that matters. But maybe take us through a little bit of the wrong kind of high fat program, which obviously would lead someone into ketosis without, listen, I'll let people go to your book and obviously read all about kind of what, ketosis is and what ketogenic, is and whatnot. But for now, maybe let's just say it's that it's obviously high fat, but where are people going wrong?
Yeah, so here's what I'd say. First off, you want to stay away from what I call, the 3 C's and 3 S's of fats, okay? So you want to stay away from any oil that says cottonseed, corn, canola oil for the most part. You want to stay away from those 3 C's. And then I know these are in some health products, but I'm not a fan of soybean oil. I'm not a fan of, in most cases, if it's been fried, sunflower and safflower oil, because polyunsaturated fats, those omega-6s, they're just more sensitive. And so for those reasons, now if you're doing just a pure sunflower oil that's never been heated, it's a little bit of a different story. But I think in general, when you're buying packaged food products, when you're seeing those in there, those oils are sensitive oils, and I don't think they're the best. So staying away from those fats, I think, is really important. And staying away from conventional meat products. We know you are what you eat, what they ate, or also what was put into their system. So when we're talking about, conventional beef today, it's higher in certain types of saturated fats, and hey, there's good and bad saturated fats. But also, you're going to be getting more of those pro-inflammatory omega-6s. You're going to be getting less CLA, less omega-3s. You're going to be getting higher amounts of different types of steroids and growth hormones, especially in both the dairy and the meat. And so, I think it's important to consider, if you're going to go keto, you want to stay away from conventional meat, conventional dairy, the 3 C's, the 3 S's, all those refined and processed oils. And you want to consume loads and loads of these food categories, lots of vegetables, lots of nuts and seeds, lots of wild organic meat, such as wild-caught salmon, grass-fed beef, that whole thing, organic eggs. And also lots of herbs and spices I put in the category, lots of bone broth, fermented foods. And herbs and spices, I think those are something that we really miss out on in all diets today. So it's not just keto, it's vegan diets still, even though you'd think that they'd be getting more herbs and spices than others. It's paleo for the most part too, and you'd think that would be getting more herbs and spices, but that's something you really notice when you look at Eastern medicine today, especially Asian, Indian, and Middle Eastern cultures. Man, they are using loads and loads of spices, from turmeric to fenugreek to cinnamon to black pepper. They're using a lot of these herbs. And, I use the term a lot, food is medicine, but it is most true for herbs and spices. I know that, broccoli was sort of the king 20 years ago of superfoods. And then we got into like kale, right? All the popularity of kale. And listen, kale and broccoli are amazing superfoods, but if you're comparing the nutrient density of turmeric or holy basil leaf, or even cinnamon, or ginger, those compounds to what's in kale, man, those herbs and spices will blow, these other foods out of the water. I mean, parsley and cilantro are more nutrient dense than kale, just as simple garden herbs. And so that's something I'm really passionate about teaching people is, man, you want to heal your heart, you want to start cleansing out your cardiovascular system and reversing heart disease, man, load up on those herbs and spices, those culinary herbs and spices. Turmeric with some black pepper and is obviously a great combo to be thrown in food, but there's a lot of others as well. Of course, garlic, is great, but those are, some things to think about.
Yeah, I tell my patients, you open up the spice drawer and just dump it all into your food. You can do all kinds of different recipes, and there's a million different recipe books that are out there, but just open up the spice drawer and dump it into your salad, into whatever food you're cooking. If you're cooking chicken, you're cooking steak, you're cooking seafood, throw it all in there. And I love to tell people to make their own salad dressing. So break out that fancy blender that you spent all that money for that you're not using because it's sitting in the closet. Well, get it out, wash it out with a good quality soap, and then you're going to put in your extra virgin olive oil and your lemon or apple cider vinegar. Throw the anchovies in there for healthy omega-3s and great quality calcium, and then just dump the spices in there. And that's a great way to get it into kids as well. So where did the pharmaceuticals come from? They came from the spice industry. And from a cardiac standpoint, if you look at blood pressure drugs, things that are ACE inhibitors, those are all things instead of taking an ACE inhibitor, which your body's not deficient in, take the spices that act like those inhibitory proteins. Ginger, as you mentioned, is an angiotensin receptor blocker. So instead of taking some pharmaceutical that may increase cancer risk, now you can do it in ginger. And the other thing that blocks, now that I'm on that thread, the angiotensin receptor is vitamin D. So, by doing, vitamin D, you get that as well. But, you bring up a lot of these things, and I know you have an expertise, obviously, in Asian medicine and Chinese medicine. Where do you see Chinese medicine, playing a role, certainly in cardiovascular disease, but in disease in general?
Yeah, so, the way that traditional Chinese medicine, and even to a degree Ayurvedic medicine, and by the way, and you and I both know this, they're the oldest forms of medicine in the world, up there with, Egyptian medicine, but these forms of medicine have been around over 3,000 years. They've been proven over and over again. I just want to say, when you look at, it's funny, I remember, about 8 years ago or so, the studies came out showing when you consume turmeric or curcumin, that extract, that you should take it with piperine, which is what's in black pepper. And all these scientists were like, wow, this, breakthrough discovery that, this compound piperine improves absorption of, the compounds in turmeric. But it's funny, the ancient recipe for turmeric golden milk or turmeric golden tea, it's been around 3,500 years. It's a blend of turmeric with a warming spice trio called tricatu, which is black pepper, ginger, and long pepper, and then healthy fats like ghee typically, or sometimes coconut, right? Coconut used more in Asia and ghee used more in India. And they knew that then. They knew that turmeric, when you consume it by itself, you absorb very little of it. But when you consume a warming spice, it sort of opens up your capillary, it opens up your cardiovascular system to allow more of these nutrients to then get into the bloodstream. And then they also knew fats, right? Fats support absorption. We've seen lots of studies showing how fat, like even from coconut oil and others, improve absorption of certain vitamins and nutrients. And so, all that being said, there's so much proof when we look at sort of the, ancient medicine, everything from, Ayurveda to Chinese medicine to others. But all that being said, so, when Chinese medicine, if you go into a traditional Chinese medicine doctor today, what they'll typically do is they'll look at your tongue and then they'll feel your pulse. And they'll just look at your appearance, see what's going on too, ask you some questions. But in general, I have a good friend of mine who's here in Nashville, and I'm actually, I won't call myself a master in Oriental medicine, but I would call him that. But I've learned a lot over the years and treat any patients or anyone I care for this way. But, looking at the tongue, for instance, and so if I look at somebody's tongue, and if there's only a white coating on the back, your tongue looks pretty good, of course. But the back of the tongue, it's indicative of kidney or adrenal issues, okay? It's that reproductive health. You could tell if somebody has adrenal fatigue based on the back of their tongue. If the entire tongue has a white coating, that's going to be dampness in Chinese medicine. Now, today we'd call it candida or yeast overgrowth, but that'd be known as dampness. If there's ridges on the side of the tongue, that's typically liver going on. If there's any sort of like suds on your tongue, it typically means gallbladder. There's some frustration happening there. Excess redness on the tip of your tongue, that's heart health or lack of sleep oftentimes there. And then I could go through a lot more. But anyways, those are just some basics there. Looking at your tongue, I can have somebody stick out their tongue and almost immediately know what's going on with them. If it's pale and there's even shaking going on, that's a blood deficiency such as anemia. So really you can tell almost everything from the tongue or, again, from the pulse. The pulse will tell you a lot as well. Where somebody's at, especially in terms of their chi, and that's overall sort of what somebody's overall level of energy within their body. And I know when I first heard of Chinese medicine and read a little bit about it, I'm like, qi, yin, yang, man, that all seems out there. That's a little weird. And I just realized it's a different language. It's a different way of describing things, and it's very, very accurate, the most accurate form of medicine in the world, if you ask me. And so when we're looking at heart health, oftentimes in Chinese medicine, there's a level of dampness in the body, and there's also a lot of times an element of that red tip of the tongue. There's just a level of anxiety and lack of actual deep sleep. And in order to really nourish the heart, and different flavors nourish different organ systems or different elements in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, the heart is part of what's called the fire element, and it's really also looking at certain tastes and season, but it's bitter is the flavor related to heart health. And I will say this, just thinking about this, the number one killer in America today is heart disease, right? It's the number one disease killer. There are 5 different flavors that we have, tastes, and bitter might just be the last flavor along with umami, but bitter is very, very low on that scale of foods we get. In fact, sweet's number 1, salty's number 2, sour number 3, umami and bitter. And bitter foods are what heal your heart. It's bitter foods. Now, the most bitter...
such as, and what would you recommend as far as bitter foods? I mean, immediately, obviously, I'm thinking about, radishes. I'm thinking, arugula.
Yeah.
And arugula is just so loaded with nitrates, converting into nitric oxide. And to me, that tastes very bitter.
Yeah, you're right. And it's, I mean, number one, it's herbs in general. I mean, even though we might think of cinnamon as being sweet, it's sweet, but it's bittersweet. So you got arugula, we got dandelion greens, radicchio, broccoli rabe is super bitter. Brussels sprouts to a degree. Coffee actually is bitter. And so, but, and then, dill is super bitter. Turmeric is bitter. I mean, just taste an herb straight, like parsley is really bitter. So all these foods are really bitter. And what happens when you consume bitter foods, it activates 2 channels, your heart channel and your liver, known in Chinese medicine. Your body starts to release bile, and it helps your body better break down fat and absorb the nutrients in fat, those fat-soluble vitamins. And so that is really the key. In Chinese medicine, if somebody was having a heart issue, they would say, number one prescription is start eating bitter herbs and spices and more bitter foods and vegetables, and that's really going to go a long way to helping heal the heart, improving absorption, digestion. And they would also say warming foods. Warming foods are going to open things up too. And so, everything from cayenne pepper, turmeric, ginger, those are all rosemary, and a lot of these are in the warming spice categories.
What, one of my favorite, I guess you would say, is part of the Chinese medicine category is a supplement called Berberine. And Berberine, if you look at the literature, the Chinese have been studying Berberine for 75 years, and Berberine does tremendous as far as lipids are concerned, as far as blood sugar is concerned. Hundreds of studies about how Berberine kills cancer. And you mentioned PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. You mentioned, for people with, prostate enlargement. And also for, there's literature that it helps to heal the leaky gut. And of course, it's a tremendous antibacterial. So love Berberine from our friends in traditional Chinese medicine, right?
Yeah, I mean, Berberine's awesome. I mean, it's typically known, probably most widely, you're right, for its antimicrobial benefits and for what it can do for getting rid of parasites and infections and viruses. So it's used oftentimes as a anti-parasite, antiviral in Chinese medicine, which is a big part of that problem. When I talked about earlier, sort of that dampness that can happen in the body, it can help in eliminating that. And let me say this too. So, when we talk about, and I know they're obviously they're different conditions, but the number one diagnosis that tends to happen in Chinese medicine with Americans today is what's called a spleen deficiency, which is, they would call dampness. And dampness is, if you ever get sick with a cold or flu, you got, snot, mucus in your throat. So mucus is very damp. And imagine you're in Florida and it's super humid there, right? And there's flooding. If you ever have flooding in a home, there's always a risk for mold growth,
Sure.
right? You don't have that problem as much in Arizona. Hey, maybe it can happen, but
we do. Believe me, we do. It's kind of scary. Mold is like one of those underlying toxicities. I agree, but go ahead.
But mold needs a certain environment to grow. It needs to be a stagnant, not a lot of wind moving, and it also needs to be damp. It needs that damp environment, and so it's the same thing in your body. And this goes for, what causes somebody to have a fungal overgrowth or yeast overgrowth like candida. Your body is damp internally, and typically damp and cold. And that's what happens. And so in Chinese medicine, bitter foods dry up dampness. It's that bitter flavor, and that's something that's missing. I see this with both a lot of naturopaths or just doctors that are holistic. Is somebody will have candida or an issue like that, and they'll say, well, hey, we just got to take a lot of natural things that are antibiotics and eat no sugar. Well, yeah, no sugar is fine, but you're not changing the environment. We got to change the internal environment. And that's how ultimately you heal. And so, to get rid of candida, yeah, most of the foods are lower sugar, but you got to dry up the dampness with all of those bitter foods. That's why like Palo d'Arco is super fantastic for candida. It is super bitter, That's one of the reasons it's so good. Sage is actually very bitter, and that's another great one for drying up sort of that dampness and candida there as well. So, those can be great. Just to give you another example of this, like, why do we call it a cold? That's a Chinese medicine term because your body is cold internally. So all the natural treatments are warming spices. It's ginger, it's cayenne, it's garlic, it's cinnamon. In Nashville, so when I first moved here, I had it's funny, he's a pastor now that I'm thinking of it, but I'm like, hey, John, I'm like, hey, you need to go home and we need to, I'm going to have you take this elderberry and this echinacea, this. He's like, what else? I just want to make sure this is good, doc. I'm going to do a hot toddy. And I'm like, I hadn't heard of that. I'm like, what's a hot toddy? And he's like, well, it's whiskey. And I'm like, hey, let me read up on that. And then it's funny. I went and read, and like, whiskey is the most warming of all of the.
As well, right? You probably sampled some organic whiskeys just to make sure you were onto something.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually do think there's maybe some better options, but whiskey's super hot and warming. So versus beer is cooling and will make you a lot worse. But it's, anyways. All that being said,
and I will say this is that when I was over at your house, and it was so nice to hang out with you guys in the Nashville area. You made me breakfast that day, and it was I remember it obviously so well because they were 4 eggs cooked perfectly just the way I like it. They were sunny side up. The yolks were runny, the healthiest way you can do it.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely delicious. And I love just opening up the spice drawer and dumping them on top of the eggs. Because like you said, you get all that delicious fat. You mix it in with all these different bitter spices that you're talking about. And it's a great way to get it into the kids as well. My kids kind of complain once in a while. They're like, Dad, why are the eggs always green? And if they're green because I'm dumping in all the spices. And if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry. That's just what the rules are. My goal is to keep you healthy. As a parent, that's my number one mission, is keep you healthy and safe, and that's what we do. But I know obviously you have a lot of expertise as well in essential oils, and a lot of my patients ask me about essential oils, and people want to know kind of what that plays in with with heart health. Maybe some of the oils that maybe kind of crank up parasympathetic tone, lower sympathetic tone, where everybody else is driven in that mode of like go, 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 go. It no doubt leads to high blood pressure, heart rhythm issues. We want to boost up parasympathetic. Is that something that essential oils can help us with?
Yeah, absolutely, especially the right essential oils. I've got several I'm thinking of here, and some of them diffusing, and then some of them to use internally. And I think when you are buying essential oils, look for certified organic. Make sure they're labeled as a dietary supplement. Just make sure you're getting quality there, especially for internal use. Now, for internal use, and sometimes these aren't just essential oils, they're known as CO2 extract essential oils or CO2 oils. I love turmeric essential oil. Turmeric oil internally is really powerful. It's high in curcumin, which actually helps reduce inflammation. It's high in tumerone, which actually increases stem cell production, so regenerating new and healthy tissues. So turmeric oil is my number one. Number 2, holy basil essential oil. Holy basil is great for diffusing. So just holy basil in Ayurvedic medicine was known as tulsi, and it's known as an adaptogenic herb, and so it's going to help lower cortisol levels. There's clinical studies, hey, holy basil lowers those cortisol levels. So diffusing holy basil is great. And with holy basil, what I would partner it with in diffusing is lavender essential oil. In fact, there's a clinical study on lavender oil helping lower blood pressure in patients, and so a systolic blood pressure. And so it's a great essential oil. It's a very calming oil. You can use it any time of day, but I really like that blend of holy basil oil with lavender essential oil for reducing cortisol, calming the nerves, both great for that. And then a few others I think are great. Even if it's a drop internally or diffusing it, rosemary oil. Now, when we hear anti-inflammatory herbs, I think most people's head goes to turmeric and ginger, and they're both fantastic. But rosemary is actually one of the most anti-inflammatory culinary spices available. And so, diffusing or a drop or so of rosemary oil internally is great, but that's another one that I just love. And then as an oil, and this, sometimes it's as a CO2 extract essential oil, or sometimes it's a straight oil. Black cumin oil or its cousin black seed oil. But black cumin and black seed, talk about bitter. In fact, that's one of the most bitter seeds in the world.
Yes.
And so, black seed is really, or black cumin oil, another great one for heart health.
Yeah, we actually, we sell that in the office here as well. We've got the black cumin seed oil, but also the organic black cumin seeds. And that's another thing I tell people to throw into the blender. But that is a real strong taste. That's something you want to kind of, build up, slowly. But you're right. I mean, the Egyptians have been using that for, 5,000, plus years, and it's so medicinal. What that does. I absolutely love it. And, getting one of those diffusers, like you said, it's so simple, to buy it, natural grocers, Whole Foods, a lot of those are obviously online. You can buy all those things to help people. And I think, certainly fundamentally from a cardiac standpoint, the people out there with atrial fibrillation, heart rhythm disorders, it's an imbalance of certainly the adrenals, of thyroid, and certainly when it comes to that autonomic balancing of the parasympathetics and sympathetics. I think that's all tremendous. So tell me what's going on with Josh Axe. Tell me what's next. What do you got planned over the next 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, before, I did want to give a few other points just on supplements if people are wondering, hey, what are some of the best things? And one of the things I wanted to mention was collagen. A lot of people aren't totally aware of this, but your arterial and your vascular walls are made up of partly collagen. And so this is something I see, a lot of times people kind of get weakened arteries as they get older, or have issues even with, spider veins and those types of things. And so really you want to strengthen your arterial walls, the fascia that holds your organs up. And if people are out there are taking protein powders from rice to pea to whey protein, a lot of times those proteins, they're really not doing anything for your health. Okay. I mean, maybe whey for, vanity purposes and you're a bodybuilder, but for the most part, I think getting a collagen protein and looking for multi-collagen protein or a bone broth protein, I think those are great because they're going to help strengthen those cardiovascular walls. So that's one supplement to consider. One of the most popular herbs used in Chinese medicine is hawthorn for overall heart health. And so that's one to consider just for general overall heart health, I think is great there as well. But I just wanted to mention those two. I think the essential oils are great, using a lot of the culinary spices there too. And what I've come up in the next 5 years, I'm excited about a lot of stuff. I think, Jordan Rubin, my business partner, and I, we're just out there doing a lot with a lot of retail companies now. Like actually Target just picked up our products, our entire collagen line. Whole Foods Market has our keto line, our collagen line, our probiotics and multis. Are getting all those in now. And then Costco just picked up our collagen. They're picking up our bone broth protein. So, it's great. You got places like Target and Costco where you can go and find ancient nutrition products, which we're really excited about. But I'm just on a mission to really continue to teach people how to use food to transform their overall health. I think that the more when we're in the kitchen thinking about, hey, if I add some rosemary here and some turmeric here and some garlic and black pepper and some cilantro, just knowing what that's doing for us in our health and getting the fake food out, getting the real food in. I'm passionate about just going around and teaching that message in truth, and now just formulating a lot of products that people can, use with them in a convenient form. I was teaching my patients to make their own bone broth at home and just saw how difficult that was for them. And then myself and Jordan Rubin said, you know what? We need to be able to get bone broth in just a powder form where people can travel with it. And we're going to be doing that a lot. We're doing that with a lot of keto products, which you can find at Whole Foods and natural grocers and individual health food stores all over the country. But we're also going to do that with actually like some CBD products here in the future. So we're excited about that and the just calming benefits that has for the parasympathetic nerve system there as well. But yeah, our the next 5 years, I'm coming out actually with a keto book, coming out with I can't say that one yet, but coming out with a lot of stuff here.
We'll have you on again. We'll talk about that, I guess, in the future. But
we will.
Listen, obviously, we appreciate having you, obviously, on the health and wellness side, and really, this is all the health revolution. Coming from where I came from in the sickness model, where The average cardiologist has no idea what we're even talking about, the spices that we're talking about. They just think, hey, listen, go eat whatever you want and take your statin drug and you'll be fine. Take your aspirin. And people are wise to that. This isn't the 1970s where you go visit your doctor and they, and you listen to whatever they said, without doing any kind of research. Now there's the ability to go to websites like yours to be able to find this information that you're not going to find in your doctor's office, and you don't need to. So this is really where prevention comes in. And, you talked about the rosemary real quick. One of our favorite recipes is rosemary almonds. So we take the almonds and we'll either do some kind of grapeseed oil or a ghee or even a butter and bake the almonds with that, kind of coat it up a little bit, and then sprinkle the rosemary all over it. And rosemary is so cheap, it's probably growing in your backyard and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
And you're not spraying it. I mean, just go harvest that. And it's a weed. It grows so easy. And for those that, don't have a garden, just grow rosemary in a bucket inside your house, and it'll grow, and you've got something that's tremendously nutritious. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, like our Chelsea and I with her parents, we have just a vacation home we go down to in Florida, and it's got our shrubs are rosemary, and so it's funny you say that. But yeah, it's a great idea. I love that.
All right, well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Axe, Dr. Josh Axe, for being on the Healthy Heart Show. Absolute pleasure, and hope to have you on again sometime in the future. Tell us what's the latest.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me, Jack. Appreciate it.